Now, in looking down the road, right, we've got a handful of months left before the U.S. presidential election. Obviously, a lot of interest from foreign actors that are hostile to our interests in the U.S., again, particularly Russia, China, Iran, to interfere in the election. When it comes to the issue of disinformation and misinformation, what's your advice to people? Again, the average voter, the person who's out there, obviously, it's mostly the moderates, the undecideds, the folks who haven't made a decision, one way or the other. But, what do you tell people in this day and age when there's such an aggressive effort to sow discontent and disinformation?
Well, that's a great question. I would just say, as always, check the source of what think about this deep fake with AI that they did trying or rather, people thought that Kamala Harris was walking out of a plane that was an image that was doctored because of all the people in front of it. And of course, it's since been revealed that actually it is a real image. And so, my argument would be you've got to be very careful, especially on social media, when all these people are saying, oh, this is not real or this is real. You need to really check the source because usually there's an agenda. Again, it's a simple thing. It's not really technically that complex. Just check the source and check the account that's posting it. If it's an account that doesn't really post that much or that posts things that are of a certain, bias, you need to always question whether or not this is an accurate thing that you're sharing. And that's really it. I mean, we're living in a really, really twisted time where something as simple as a photograph is going to be manipulated with AI, and ordinary people aren't going to be able to know. In fact, I'll admit that I get tricked sometimes by these AI images, for campaign events and whatnot, because it looks so real these days. So it's going to be a very complicated time period we're living in when it comes to things like this.
How good is the technology? How quickly is it developing to proactively fight against this issue of deep fakes and what AI is capable of doing and how that can influence people's opinions and thoughts?
It's one of those things where the development is actually going faster than what we have. So what I mean by that is, a year or two ago, deepfakes really were kind of a novelty. Now we're entering a period where just a couple years later, it's getting complex. You can still detect when something's fake, but the new iterations of AI and deepfakes are becoming so complex that the ordinary person is not going to be able to detect with the naked eye. And so I would say, given the level of investment and interest among companies to develop this technology, that in the next 5 years, we're going to be living in a very different world where deepfakes are very believable, and you could have real political fallout and scandal from these deepfakes. And so I would say that we are on a very positive, trend of having technology that is very, very dangerous for the ordinary person. It's happening at a far faster clip, I think, than even what most experts thought would happen.
Yeah, I think part of the problem too is I don't think there's any way around this. It's just people are busy. People are focused elsewhere. Everyone's trying to put food on the table. Do people really have time to dig in and evaluate the source of the information that they're seeing? A lot of people just want to be siloed and read what they agree with. And we just get further and further hardened, particularly on the edges of the political spectrum. And so I'm not sure that there's a way out of this, but I am wondering about the technology, the ability to, I don't even know how you would refer to it, to watermark original video or original photos, so that you can identify if there's been. I know there's some companies out there working on this, but so that you can identify if anything, even a pixel's been changed.
Yeah, no, they are. There is technology being developed. I want to say Google, I think, is behind one of these. Of course, you have to be careful, though, as well, because these companies also have an interest in constantly saying something's misinformation that might not be misinformation. But yes, the technology is there, and they're working on it to be able to basically say this is an original video, And if you match it against this other video, you will be able to tell algorithmically that it's been manipulated. And I believe NSA has a program that's working on something similar. I mean, the intel community, particularly the NSA and sort of those agencies, they do have probably a little bit more of a lead over the general public on specifically the issue of deepfake, both creating them and being able to detect them, I think, than probably what most private companies even have.
Okay. I know this question is fairly broad, and it gets us a ways away from the original topic, which was the hack on the Trump campaign and Iran's involvement in that. But looking forward, what worries you most in the world of cyberspace, the world of cybersecurity, cyber shenanigans, whatever you want to call it? What worries you the most?
A cyber 9/11. After 9/11, we talked a lot about this. I remember, this was like a constant refrain. When I worked in government, there was always this concern of, cyber 9/11, cyber 9/11. No one really defined it. I'm sure at the CIA, and they did define it. But in terms of like the general public and sort of the civilian facing, like the Congress and whatever, nobody really could understand really what they meant. A total comprehensive attack on our critical infrastructure that shuts down water, sewage reclamation, electricity, that could happen anywhere at any time. Our grid, our basic infrastructure, there are defenses, but those defenses can ultimately be destroyed. Those defenses can be worked around. And already we're seeing evidence of China with what's known as Volt Typhoon, laying the groundwork, living off the land, as they say, preparing the battle space for a massive shutdown of our key infrastructure in the event that China decides to invade Taiwan, which I think is coming soon. Similarly, there are terrorists out there with state backing that have the capacity to do significant amounts of damage to critical infrastructure. Banking system. Remember, I think it was in 2009, the Iranians tried to hack a bank, I think in Chicago. I have and it's in my book. I can't remember off the top of my head, though, the exact incident. They also tried to flood upstate New York by shutting down the controls on a dam. Iran did this about 10 years ago. And so even back then, you saw Iran working with their proxies to try to go after our infrastructure. Imagine doing that for the whole country. And that's the world we're now living in. And so when I say cyber 9/11, that's what I mean, debilitating the U.S. so we're not effective elsewhere in the world, trying to clean up the mess here rather than the mess over in the Iran's part of the world. That's coming. And I worry that it might be timed for the election. So in the next 4 months.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.